Hey everyone, welcome me back. Here I am. You're my biggest fan. And hey, so it's been a while, and so I'm gonna be a little off my game, if that's okay with you. Trying to figure out what I normally do. Morta, you have arrived as well. Congratulations. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I wrote a checklist, a streaming checklist of things I had to do, but it's outdated now. And I keep trying to find the checklist. What is it that you do when you stream to make sure all your technical stuff is working? Speaking of technical stuff, the last stream before I left, I couldn't figure out why my camera wasn't displaying. Turns out because this was the connection that I had. And that's not a super great connection, apparently. I'm no technologist, but yeah, for some reason, I think what happened was I tripped over the cord at some point and it yanked it out of the thing. So, hey, $120 trip. That's cool. On top of $3,000 to fix my car from my vacation. It's been great. It's been great, everyone. Yeah, so I was hoping to have prepped a bunch of stuff, and then I got a surprise honey-do list as soon as I got up, and so now I'm behind. But now that I got all the footage, I made the props, we went out, we shot a movie. That was fun-ish. It was mostly stressful, more than fun. But we're back from that, hooray! And now I'm trying to remember where I left off on all these other various projects. So I seem to recall I had made a mold of this piece by 3D Retro Design, or Design Retro 3D, or 3D Design Retro. And yeah, I ordered this. I made a mold of it. I cast it just by pressing this bloopy clay into it because I wanted to make a realistic version of it. And so I had started experimenting with rock textures and stuff over in this corner, and like some terrain texture over in this corner. And sadly, because I don't have my nice camera, you're just going to have to kind of guess what that looks like. Get almost focused on there. Yeah. Okay, so that's where I was with that. The other thing I kept bouncing around to, well, I guess the tertiary thing, whenever I had the gold foil out, was I was making these bookmarks. These papyrus bookmarks. Ah, here's one with actual gold foil on it. It's very pretty. Yeah. Then I feel like I was definitely in the home stretch on the Bowmark busts. I think the little one is it completely ready to go? There's probably still more cleanup work I need to do on the little radiating thingies. Let's get a little closer, shall we? Yeah, some more cleanup work on that. Yeah, none of these are great. Some of them are okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I was balancing out the shoulders because for some reason when I did the digital sculpt, I had this shoulder a good, I don't know, like to scale it would have been an inch or, I don't know, 7 or 8 centimeters kind of cut in more than on this one. So, trying to clean that up. Which is always tricky to carve the new material down to the same surface as the same surface with the same plane. It's going to require some finesse and some sanding. When we get a bigger crowd, I'm going to show some footage from our trip of all the exotic locations we went to. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. Let me double check something. Did I actually transfer the file? I think I did. Too many tabs. I always have too many tabs. Okay, well, here I am staring into the middle distance for your entertainment. What have you been up to, Van Morta, while I was gone for 2.5 weeks? It's probably been 3 weeks since I've streamed. I was kind of worried my affiliate ship mess would go away, because there's all these rules about frequency of streaming and stuff. But I think that's just to get the affiliate status. I don't know if you need to do it continually to keep it. Van Morta is writing a review on Your Boss, playing the New Living Story, and avoiding the Twitter drama that went on. Oh, very good. That was some severely not fun Twitter drama. When Twitter drama invades the real world and causes real drama, it seriously sucks. In these situations, I'm always wondering, is it better to fill in the little line between the new clay and the old surface, or to just keep carving? Generally, what I find out is I think I'm going to save time by filling it in, and then I end up carving it almost completely away anyway. Yeah, there is a whole story for sure. I thought Wooden Potatoes did a pretty good job with the breakdown. I think most of the issue came in the fact that there's conflicting expectations about what the platform is and what the customs on that platform ought to be. Because I often see kind of industry-facing, like internal industry talk going on Twitter, but I mean it is a public platform, so it's not like you know, people can't see it, but most of the time it gets ignored. And I think there was an expectation to be left alone that was not shared by everyone. There was an expectation that that was the context. Damon Rath, hey! How did you just subscribe? How did the car survive the trip? The car is drivable right now. We probably spent more to get it drivable than it is actually worth. Actually, I'm almost certain that is the case. Which is really bad. It means we're probably losing a lot of money and are going to have to get a new car sometime with no trade-in value on our current vehicle. So yeah. It's not fun times. I made some calculated risks, and they did not pay off. I'm fortunate to be in a position where that's not going to financially ruin me for like more than a couple years. I mean, it's gonna have repercussions for years, but it's not like a setback that's going to keep, you know, my kid from going to college, mostly because I'm not sending my kid to college. But yeah, I mean, it's an older car. It's a 2006, and we took it to areas that were tricky for a car like that. You know, we didn't like go off-roading like, yeehaw, let's take this sucker into the, you know, middle of nowhere, but we went off of a road to the side of a road, and getting back onto the road after that didn't work out well for us. Yes, Damon, we are back. Damon subscribed with a tier 1 sub. Subscribed for 2 months in a row. Interesting. You subscribed for 2 months in a row. Well, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I guess I don't understand how subscriptions work on Twitch. I thought you subscribed once and it automatically re-ups you. Is that not the case? Do you have to manually re-subscribe every month? And Mortis says, yep, I just resub. Yay for Amazon. Damon, the problem with the car was that ultimately the front end kind of got crunched into the fan between the radiator and the engine block got crushed because kind of the front bumper area got smashed in. The bumper itself looks fine. Like it needed some fasteners to be put back in place, but the actual like substructure under there got bent and twisted and smashed enough expensive stuff to be expensive. But the guy at USAA, who's our insurance, seems like a super cool guy who is very sincerely trying to help us figure out the best way to resolve the situation. And so that's getting worked on. We still have to take it to our place. Like, you know, we had to get it fixed as an emergency in Salt Lake City, which was 800 miles from home. But we couldn't just sit around for however long and wait for insurance to come out, because it was the 3rd of July. It would have been probably several days of waiting around in Salt Lake City if we were going to try to do things the quote-unquote right way. And, you know, I have a job and I have a certain amount of PTO, and my PTO was running out, so I could not do that. So we're kind of caught over a barrel, and it looks like it's definitely going to be biting us in the buttocks. Damon says, it does, but it allows you to share your resub the next time you watch. So it keeps you on, right? Because I was subscribed to previously recorded live for quite a while, and it would tell me, like, you've been on 6 months or whatever. And so there must have been an option to share, like a little thing under there you hit, and it says share, I assume. That seems like a pretty nice way to do it, because it's like a gentle reminder, hey, you're sending this person money, and so you can change your mind whenever you want, but it doesn't force you to go through rigmarole every time. But if you want the social, let's see, what is the word for that? I guess incentive to share that, yes, I enjoy this creator along with you guys enough to put my money where my mouth is. You can do so, and that's cool. I like that. There's so many things I like about Twitch. I'm so glad you people manipulated me into coming over here. Damon says, if it auto bills you if you want to, you can turn that off if you want. But then when you come back to the stream, there's a little pop-up at the top of chat with a button to share your resub, in case the streamer has giveaways or shoutouts or whatever for resub, for subs/resubs. Oh, I can do giveaways. That's exciting. I definitely want to do something like that. I assume there's ways to set it up so it's like, you know, the people who have been subbed for 5 months get 5 chances at the drawing, and people who have done it 1 get 1, sort of thing, maybe? Some kind of incentive structure to stick around and be consistent. That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd love to give stuff away on a regular basis. My biggest fear with that is just international shipping. it's so ridiculous. Oftentimes it can cost maybe $10 or $20 to ship. You know, like if I wanted to give away one of these every stream, I'll give away a papyrus bookmark, and then someone in you know, Australia wins. It's like, ah, crap. I don't want to feel aw crap when someone wins. I want to feel like, yes, that's awesome. Which I guess means I just need to budget. That's the way I need to look at it. Just need to say, okay, how many subs do I have? How much does that actually equal on average? What is shipping going to be for every prize that I send out? Which requires like organization and some kind of bookkeeping. All things that artists are typically known for being incredible at. Damon says, usually there's a currency. Watching gets you like 1 token every 15 minutes. Subs get an increased amount. Then you do a lottery where the viewers choose to spend however much currency they want with limits you set. Wow. So much control, so much power. Yeah, boy, okay, so I need to maybe be compiling a list of things I need to start incorporating into my streams. Also, I really should have just been sanding this instead of scraping it. I think I'm ending up with some washboarding along the shoulder here. Although here's a clear-cut case where I need to carve. Each token spent gets you one chance in the drawing. Okay. Now, do you happen to know, is that something you have to set up through slobs, or is that something that you set up on the back end of Twitch? Because I know Slobs has that, like, wait, I think it is Streamlabs is where you set up like the little games and stuff, or is that all? No, yeah. I need to set aside time to actually research this stuff. For example, Bog Otter's currency is clams. Every 4 subs, he gives away a game key from games people have donated to him. Minimum entry is always 1. Max is arbitrarily spent. Pretty sure Streamlabs does it. Oh, arbitrarily set. Okay, so the incentive structure is set up like, hey, just spend time with me. The more time you spend with me, the more currency you earn to potentially win prizes. And then depending on the prize, like, one day I'm giving away a bookmark, and people are like, and it's worth, 2 clams. And then the next time I'm like, hey, I'm giving away this Bowmark bust. And everyone's like, oh, that's worth like 200 clams. What should my bucks be? What should Josh bucks be? I'm trying to think of something Talifar related. I mean, we have multiple currencies in the world of Talifar, but I would want it to be something kind of recognizable and associated with my brand. Aletha, hello, welcome. How did you do without me? Did you survive? I was hoping you'd be at your mom's house on the 4th of July when we were driving through. Got to say hi to a bunch of your siblings and in-laws. Yeah, at least survived without my live streams. That's understandable. That is like oxygen. They are like oxygen. I don't know how the world survived before I was live streaming, really. It's amazing the world made it as far as it did. I still haven't decided if this is an acceptable resolution between these two surfaces. Probably I'll have to make that determination after I give it a coat of primer. So it's all one color. Okay, I've got sanding stuff, right? Right. I definitely have sanding stuff. I've sanded before. I know how to do this. Mistrox is now following. Hey, thanks, Mistrox. Now, is that Mist Rocks or Miss Trox? These are the important questions that must be answered. Because it could just be your opinion about the mist, or you could be a miss who happens to be a Trox. Whatever a Trox is. I imagine it's like a mix between an ox and a T-Rex. Mist Row. The X's are for the lack of the name being taken. Okay, Mist Row. So, almost like Maestro, but for mist. Should turn down my mic a bit. I'm blowing out. Oh yeah, okay. So I have this guy here, which is probably getting picked up. Let me see. Audio device 1. Okay, so this has got to, hold on, let me test real quick. Okay, this is this one. How do I make it go to the other one? I don't, auxiliary device 1. That should be, let me double check. This is Cam Girl. Yes. So I want Cam Girl to be the one that is getting my audio. It says it is. Okay, we are doing the dummy-dumb solution. We're going to just switch these cameras. Okay, you are now Cam Girl. You are now Art Cam. Congrats. You have all been demoted / promoted. Okay. That's you. Let's make sure your resolution is high enough. Okay. Okay, good resolution. Good for you. Okay. Oh, right. So I need to move this guy to be my art. Here. Okay. We're getting this. All because of Damon is so picky about not wanting the microphone to be blown out. Okay. This one needs to be lower resolution. Yep. And down here. Must go here. There we go. Oh, that is the perfect emoticon for the situation, Damon. Appreciate it. Okay. Tell me what my levels sound like now. Tell me A, is there music? B, can you hear my voice? I'm just gonna be loud for 1 second. I'm very loud now! Okay. Did that blow things out? Sounds good to Mistro. Good. This is where things get tricky. Because if I put equal pressure across the new material that I added and the old surface, what always happens is, something bad. It doesn't sand down to the ridge between them for some reason. So I always have to try to sand just on the edge of my new material. Frame rate on webcam is terrible. Boy, yeah, it sure is. Let's see here. Maybe it can't handle 1920 by 1080? What if I change to 1280? Well, that's less bad. I mean, they're identical cameras, so it really should not make a difference. I wonder if there's a setting, like, hey, do a bad frame rate setting. FPS is set to highest FPS. I can match output FPS. Let's see if that makes it better. Hey, it looks pretty smooth. I did a thing. I solved a thing. Yay. It's very rare for that to happen on a Josh Foreman live stream. What you witnessed here is a miracle, and I want you to effing acknowledge it. Who knows where that quote's from? Yeah, Leith, I don't expect you will have ever seen the piece of popular culture / media that quote is from. I'll give you a hint. Same actor who played Mace Windu on the Star Wars prequels. Also a guy who's sick of snakes when they are on planes. also often wears an eye patch in Avengers movies. But it is not from any of those movies. Damon got it correct. But my favorite version of that line is as used in 10 Things I Hate About Commandments, which is a preview for a movie that doesn't exist. Well, it is a movie that exists called The 10 Commandments, but it is edited and framed in such a way that it looks like a high school comedy drama. And it says starring Principal Firebush, and it shows the burning bush and has Samuel L. Jackson's voice booming from it saying that line. It's good stuff. Now to move on to a little bit finer sandpaper. Looks like I might actually be pulling this off. We'll see. I wish I had a grit. Like this one is 100 and this is 220. I would love to have like a 180 between them. And I probably do if I hunted it down, but not in these like cool rolls that work really well going over organic surfaces like this. What are some prizes besides game keys? Like, do any of you guys follow artists who have prizes that are not like physical things that get mailed? So you know you could do like wallpaper, like digital images and stuff like that, but like, I do not understand how those have any value on the internet. Which is not to say they don't have value, just saying I don't understand how they do. This area is going to be a problem for me. One-on-one chats, digital stuff, doesn't matter value, it's winning. That's a good point. Shop coupons, if they have a shop. Ooh. Shop coupons. That's an interesting thought. I mean, I am going to be having stuff for sale at some point. I mean, I do, like, I have shop fronts on Threadless and, you know, where you can order t-shirts with my designs on them. I don't know that we have the power to make our own coupons for that. feeling this little transition here is going to require... Come on, you can't focus on that, really. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't have... This is the camera, right? Yes. Do I not have auto focus? Focus. Set to auto. Okay, what if I manually adjust it? Can I get it to change? It does not change, no matter where I put the slider. Awesome. Oh, there we go. Put this. Sorry, this screen in my Streamlabs is so small I can't actually tell if it's. And there doesn't seem to be a way to resize it. Fascinating. Okay, well, I think that's better now. Just let it sit like that for a while until I need to move the camera again. That's a great way to do it. Anyway, yeah, so you can see this line right here is the boundary between the stuff that I added to this shoulder and where the original 3D print ends. And so it's got all these layers of primer under it that I'm scraping down into in an attempt to make the transition completely seamless. But you can see as I'm sanding, I'm getting this little kind of white stripe here. And that would be because the edge kind of puckered up a little bit before curving over, as edges often do, because when you're using like a roll of sandpaper like this, it's not like a machine precision sanding angle or whatever, which is why it's often trickier than you imagine it would be to add, you know, what's perceptually just a flat continuation of a plane. Jay Baki says they have value because they are shiny. I need new glasses, so I can't tell if it's in focus or not anyway. Oh, perfect. Should just make that a rule. Anyone who needs glasses should watch this stream. You'll get the most out of it that way. Damon says you should totally get those giant frames. Yeah, your cats might be terrified of you if you came in with giant eyeballs all of a sudden. Okay, I think in order to be a fashionista, you can't be easily freaked out. You have to be very open-minded to whatever the latest trend is, no matter how weird it is. Kind of glad I had several weeks away from this so I can make these more dispassionate decisions about doing, you know, another several hours of work in order to get it to the point where I'm really happy with it and feel like, okay, I feel awesome about making this a product that people would be proud to own, and not just where it's like, well, that's it. I'm tired. I can't do any more. Just gotta accept what it is. I mean, every project hits that at some point, but the further you get before you reach that point, the higher the quality and the more proud you can be of it. Damon's swapping to mobile to head outside. Alright, fair enough, Damon. Have fun in the sun. Alita says, did you miss my earlier request to hear of your adventures in movie making? I did miss that. I'm happy to talk about adventures in movie making. I'll go ahead. I'll start with the weirdest one, which I posted about on Facebook, just because, you know, most people watching this video probably don't follow my Facebook. So we were out filming. Well, okay, we'll start with the preface for those who don't know. The last 2.5 weeks I was on a road trip with my son Shane. He just graduated high school. His current goal in life is to do editing or special effects or something in movie production. So I thought it'd be fun. Hey, let's do a road trip to celebrate your graduation, and you know, I'll teach you what I know about, you know, cinematography and cameras and, you know, that sort of thing. I wrote a little script for just a goofy little kind of short film that we want to make. It's about getting sucked into, you know, alternate video game dimension where you have to fight with space invaders. Epile! Hey, thanks for following, Epile. So yeah, that's the premise. Is it's a father and son kind of road trip. Find a relic, get sucked into a dimension, fight space invaders. That way he can do the editing and the special effects and stuff for him, and have a little portfolio piece. At least, you know, even if it turns out really bad, he'll at least have had the practice of going through the process. So we're driving our Mazda 5, which, if you don't know much about cars, it's a it's like a mini minivan is what it is. It's built on the chassis of the Mazda 3, which is kind of a sporty sedan type car, but it has like a big hatchback and sliding side doors. So it has 3 rows. You can get 6 people in there uncomfortably, but you can cram them in if you needed to. Anyway, yeah, it's not a versatile vehicle in the sense of being able to go into dramatic locations. So we had to be really careful with it. A lot of the national parks and stuff we were visiting, you'd have to go on these gravel dirt roads and stuff like that, and so that was always really nerve-wracking to do that. And so on one of the days we were outside of Capitol Reef in Utah, which is a big national park, very beautiful canyons and rock formations and stuff like that. And the guy at the hotel we were staying at told us about this place called Swing Arm City, which is not a city, and I don't know what swing arm means. I have a suspicion. I should look it up. But anyway, it is a location where a lot of people like to take their ATVs, motorcycles, four-wheelers, off-roaders, out into this kind of badlands, desert wilderness. But it's a location that they filmed parts of the movie John Carter from Mars, which I want to say was probably about a 2010 or 11 sci-fi movie based on a really old book. Anyway, it looks enough like Mars, and we were looking for places that look like not Earth. So I was like, oh, exciting. So we drive out there, and it's super awesome because there's like a normal pull-off off of the highway. There's a little sign. There's a little like, hey, this is this area, and a little parking lot. But then beyond that, just for miles, is a lot of like mostly flat terrain with, it looks like moon dust. It's just all gray black area. And so I drove the car onto it, a couple feet, just to be like, is this safe for our little car? And it seemed fine. So we were driving around looking for great locations in that area. There were a lot of places we couldn't go because there's these huge they almost look like waves made out of the ground, where people would, you could see from the tracks, they would drive their motorcycle or whatever like way up 100 feet up and then swing back down. And I'm guessing that's what a swing arm is. Anyway, yeah, so we got a certain distance, and we saw, oh, we can't go any further because the ground gets like really washboardy, really, not safe for a vehicle like ours. So we kind of turned around and found a spot that would work just fine for our needs. And as we were turning around, this bright red Jeep pulls up, like cherry red, not a scratch, not a particle of dust on it. Window rolls down. It's this Chinese guy, and he asks, "Hey, is there good places to go back there? Over those hills?" And I was like, "Yeah, with a Jeep like yours, absolutely. It's we couldn't go any further because of our car, but you should have a good time." He's like, "Great." So he drives off. We start shooting. About an hour or so later, we're about halfway through our lines, and over the next ridge, the Chinese guy, walks out of the desert with like a bottle of water, and it's like, "Oh, I got my Jeep stuck. Can you help me? I need to contact someone." There's no cell reception in this area. We're about 15 or 20 miles away from the nearest town. And by town, I mean like there's like one restaurant, 2 gas stations, a motel, and like some ramshackle shacks and a crossroads. That's what that town was. It's called Hanksville. So anyway, we get them to this place. We drive them there, even though it's super annoying. We're losing the light. We're losing our time. Because this is a whirlwind tour we're taking. Like, we had over 20 stops that we made on our 2.5 weeks, right? So we're not the type who just sit down and like explore a whole area for days. This is just like, let's find the coolest spot as fast as we can, film our thing, and move on as fast as we can. So very rapid pace. We get them to this gas station that was the gas station was blown out of rock. Like, it was a cave, an artificial cave that they dynamited out of rock in the 80s. It was really interesting. Yeah, drop them off, head back. And then the car starts making scary sounds. Oh, okay, so here's the part that I left out. To get him back, I went away back onto the road that I hadn't come, because it was like, I wasn't, we drove back and forth a bit trying to find the best place to do this filming. And we had to go around various features, like places where there were big rocks in the road, or kind of these ditchy type divots or whatever. And since I was just like, I got to get this guy back, this is kind of an emergency, I shouldn't be wasting time like exploring, trying to find the perfect way back, I ended up going through one of these ditch type things to get back onto the road. And that smashed in the front of the car. So it's pretty much because I decided we should really help this guy that we ended up wrecking our car real good. Like, we couldn't run the AC. It was about $3,000 worth of damage just to get it to the point where we could drive it home. Yeah, so that was very sad. Like I said earlier, it was a calculated risk and it did not pay off. And that always sucks. But you can't expect to make calculated risks that always pay off, can you? Yeah, they wouldn't be a risk then. So that was one adventure we had. Another one we had was we were going to these slot canyons that were way out. Way out, and we were, you know, warned to take a lot of water, so we always did. We had these massive backpacks that my brother, who's in the Air Force, he loaned us, and they have camel packs in them, which, if you don't know what that is, it's like a big water bladder that slides into the backpack, and there's like a hose that comes out, so you can just drink from the hose whenever you need. So those were like filled with ice before we left, and they just melt. You know, it's 100 degrees-ish where we were going. And Damon Raw, hello. And yeah, so we were exploring these slot canyons, some of which let's see, can you see my hands? Okay, this wide. So I had to squeeze through where my chest and my back were both, like, I just kind of had to force my way through, which was very uncomfortable in some places because the walls were almost like sandpaper with rocks sticking out. And then we also had the big bags and those big props. If you saw the streams before the trip, we were making those big, like those green, it was like a shield and a gun type of prop. And so we had those plus our backpacks, all our camera gear, etc., etc. So we were totally weighted down and trying to get through these ridiculously convoluted, super skinny areas. So you're supposed to be able to go down one slot canyon, you kind of pop up in the desert, you walk over to the other slot canyon and come back in a loop. When we popped out and looked around, we could not find any obvious where the other one was, so we ended up wandering around on the surface of the desert for a good hour trying to figure out. You know, I always had a sense like, well, we can always just go back exactly the way we came and get back out that way, but that would have been super annoying after all that, you know, time and effort trying to find the other one. Shane was like legitimately scared. He thought we were going to die in the desert, that we were lost forever. But I could see from where the sun was which direction was north, and I knew which direction we came from. So it wasn't actually life or death, but he's never been in an experience like that, and he actually thought it was. He was freaking out a bit. And then we ran out of water, and we were, you know, maybe halfway through the day. Well, we were probably 4 hours into a 6-hour day. And that was not good. 100 degrees, extreme exertion with these heavy packs, heavy awkward packs trying to squeeze through these tiny locations. That was a little harrowing. Again, I was never fearful for our lives, but fearful for maybe having to, you know, I don't know, something more extreme than what I would have liked. Yeah, so that was another adventure. But man, we got so much really cool footage of really cool places. I think we're going to be able to make something really neat out of all this footage. In fact, I did a quick compilation of video of the now this is not at all like the plot of the movie. But watching this will just give you a flavor for the areas that we went to and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and play this right over here. It's going to be great. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. Here's my screen. There we go. Okay, so yeah, the plot is I'm taking my son to this what's it called shop, like a curiosity shop that has this relic that that we're going to, or it's a map to get us to a relic. You know, we have to go into a cave and find it. It takes us to an alternate dimension. Blah blah blah. There's no sound in it because all the vocals and stuff are recorded onto another mic, and getting that all synced up is not something I was willing to do. I just spent a couple hours throwing all this stuff together. So here we go. Yeah, this is like, hey son, I brought you to this place to get you this perfect graduation present, blah blah blah. And he's very skeptical about the whole thing. Now we met this nice lady here in Roswell, New Mexico. Found the shop, and so yeah, she ends up selling us the map, and we're all excited. Da da da, we go on our way. She says, "Oh, it's dangerous. No one has ever come back." Right? We find the cave entrance. Oh, that's out of sequence. Don't worry, there's a lot of out of sequence stuff here. Yeah, this place was somewhere in, I want to say, northern Nevada. Yeah, we're like, let's do it. Following the map. Spent a lot of time taking the same camera and doing the same scene over and over again with the camera in different locations. Found this amazing cave that was in the right on the border of Mexico that you're allowed to just go into. There's no guides, there's no you know, tours, whatever. It's just you gotta hike through super hot desert to get there, whatever. So we were able to bring our ridiculous props and gear in there, do all the shooting we wanted to do. Even brought in some of our fog in a can, which makes it very cool and atmospheric. The tone of the movie is supposed to be pretty kind of silly and whimsical, so we've got all these like bones and stuff hanging out that we're just completely ignoring because it's like it's just supposed to be silly, fast-paced thing. There's the little relic that I was working on in the previous stream. I found a beetle. Look at this beetle in the skull. It's so great. I need to rewind that. We found that beetle at the entrance to the cave. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I stuck it in the little prop and stuck it on the skull for that shot. It turned out really awesome. Yeah, and I'm like, oh yes, I can finally fulfill my dream of being the world champion, you know, Space Invader or whatever. And then what does this button do? And then we're gonna have all sorts of special effects of like, you know, time portal, blah blah blah, or not time portal, whatever, you know. We zap through whatever. We're like, what's going on? And I'm explaining this is gonna be a Space Invaders type of thing. And then, so Shane's gonna be adding in, like, you know, from the old Space Invaders games. He's gonna be putting in Space Invaders, and bombs are going to be dropping, and we're running away, like, ah, what's going on, you know. We'd count down 3, 2, 1, and then pretend a bomb hits, so the camera will shake, and there'll be an explosion and stuff. And, yeah, so Shane's first idea is, well, I'll hit him with a rock, and so he, you know, imagine Space Invaders in the sky, but it doesn't even come close to them. Like, oh no, we gotta run. And so we're going to be jumping through various portals, going to different places. Here I'm like, this isn't at all what the, you know, what's his face on the forum said it would be like. As like I followed this conspiracy theory to find this thing. And yeah, this scene actually was in Washington. Yeah, so a lot of running away at first and confusion, like, what's going on? What are we going to do? Uh, I have a friend who's going to be doing the music for it, who did the music for Descent 3, and he just has the perfect tone for this sort of thing. Like, it's like he does very synth wave, like 80s stuff. If you imagine like Stranger Things kind of music a little bit, but with arcadey sounds and such. I think this was near Capitol Reef as well. And then this was Goblin Valley. So at some point we figure out we can build these shields out of the pieces of that fall off of stuff, and then this is the area where we figure out that we can get the guns off of a ship. So you got to pretend there's a giant ship here. It gets blown up, and then I'm like, no, the spaceship. That was what, you know. I could have been good. I could have been great. That was the one thing I knew how to do in Space Invaders. And then I notice, oh hey, but here's a gun that fell off of the ship when it blew up. And now we got gun arms, yay! Okay, and the thing with these props, with the green props, you have to imagine they're not going to look like that at all. They're going to be the same shape, but they're going to look like holographic video effect things, like you would imagine in an arcade game. One of the jokes is that Shane hits every time he shoots, and I miss every time I shoot, because that's the way it is in real life. I'm really bad at shooting things in video games. And then just a variety of locations. You know, there's going to be like a you know, montage of, you know, at first we're failing and not knowing what to do, and then we figure stuff out, and there's a montage of us really succeeding and doing a great job killing them bad guys in various locations. We had to sneak onto the property to get to that place with the geyser. Then in this part, we're like luring. This is where Shane discovers how to create the portals. Is if they drop a bomb on pieces of them, it creates a portal that leads us to the next world. Yeah, just lots of really cool locations, really cool spacey rock formations. And I'm not gonna, I didn't show like the ending, but there's like a big boss fight at the end with a very dramatic conclusion, and then a weird twist ending. But yeah, so that's essentially what's going on with that. So that's just a little sampler of raw footage. Hopefully, I don't know, I'm hoping maybe by the end of the summer Shane will have that all edited together into a super cool, fun little video short. We shall see. Yep, Mistro, that's what the props are for. And I do hope it will be amazing. Thanks, Shane. Better than a cat. Just come in here and knock stuff over.
I can also put all over your clothes. So.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Alright, so one thing I need to figure out. Here's a tricky issue. I'm pouring the resin into about, like, see where my X-Acto knife is? Everything under here is not going to be filled. And the idea is that these are these like bamboo or log kind of spikes that hold this platform up. In the book, Bowmark has to fight on this this bronze disc. And so ideally, these spikes end at the same place all the way around. I guess one way I can figure that out would be to stick it in a shallow pan and fill it with water, And then I would be able to mark exactly where that line is to confirm that the spikes are all doing what they need to do. Maybe. But then there's also a variety of other issues I need to fix on them before I get to that point. So I might be getting ahead of myself. For instance, some of these, let's see if you can see in profile. It's not really clear on the camera, but some of these logs just are kind of limp. Like they're not actually like a straight, like a log. And to fix that, I think I just need to just do a resurface over all of them that's absolutely straight. I kind of wonder if using wood would work. That, because that would definitely be straight. It doesn't have the curve, but that could work as kind of the top. What if I used half size? I did that. Problem is these little guys too. They tend to go down because they're supposed to be smaller. It's supposed to be small, big, small, small, big, small. That's the pattern. They come out at a different, height. I wonder if that means I need to slice these down. I also keep getting tempted to just cut them off completely, just make one that I know works perfectly, cast that, and just replicate it. Because there's 12 of these times 3, which is 30 something if I'm doing my math right. So every time I go through the process of doing a tweak on one, it ends up taking me way longer than I thought that it would. But I'm trying to balance that with how, like, not all of them need the same amount of work either. So, I think I'm gonna give it one more try of just clean up what needs to be cleaned up and judge it from there. If it still needs another pass, then I'm gonna have to seriously reconsider just ripping them out and starting over. Starting over just on these, not on the whole sculpture. That would be ridiculous. Huh. Is there a good way? Flatten the tops completely. Mm. Every time I think, oh, I'm just going to fix it up this one little spot, and then I end up seeing 12 other little spots. Alright, just gonna keep doing this thing. Alright, let's go back to autofocus. So what I'm hoping this solves is that all of them will at least be straight like a board. I think it also means I'm going to have to kind of taper the edges of these down a little bit. I mean, I do want them to look like rough-hewn logs. So they don't have to be incredibly precise, but they do have to kind of flow with the overall form. What do we got? Rolf L. Erlich. Hey, thanks. Thank you. Thanks for following. You'll have to give me a pronunciation guide in the comments. Is this good? Is this good yet? Is this achieved good? Almost. Trying to figure out if I can just like do the wood texture just through carving as opposed to putting another layer of clay over it. Great thing about the clay is you don't end up having the issue that I have right now, which is any little convolutions in the surface end up derailing the direction of the blade because it's nice soft clay, no derailing. The downside is it would be such a thin layer that it's always hard to get it to stick consistently. I think what I'll do is I'll do a primer. There we go. Do a layer of primer over it, get all the colors homogenized again, and I'll have a much better idea of what needs to be done to make these complete. Hey, Barrel of Erlich. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to the most bare bones art channel that exists. Well, not the most bare bones. I actually have 2 cameras. I mean, that's pretty next level, right? But I don't have like the cool games and the prizes and the giveaways. But I will, with your continued support and patience. These things are going to happen. Mostly they're going to happen when I come across someone who has done all those things before in real life and is like, hey, let me come over to your house and set it up so that it works the way you want for you. And or someone online who can be like, hey, I can just make this template for you and you can just run it on Streamlabs and it'll just happen. That's the most likely scenario for me getting all these cool features. I'm impressed with myself that I came up with my little tip jar. So able to figure that out. I was able to figure out how to do a slideshow. Oh my gosh. That was revolutionary. Another one of our elements of continual adventure that we kept running into was, you know, I planned for us to sleep in the back of our car for at least half of the nights of our trip. The thing I failed, and I thought, you know, it's like camping, right? But even better because you're just in your car. You don't have to worry about setting up a tent, blah, blah, blah. The thing I didn't account for, and this comes from just living in the Northwest and not thinking about these things very frequently, is that when it's like 90 or 100 degrees, you can't sleep in a car with the door closed. I thought, well, we can crack the windows if it gets too warm. No, not when it's 80 or 90 degrees and you're trying to sleep. That doesn't work. And if you have doors and windows wide open, as we did one night, hey, guess what's gonna come into your car? Oh, you like this hair? Yeah, this is actually, I'm gonna show people, for folks who haven't seen the whole effect. Where's the other one? Here we go. Yeah, because I'm gonna be casting this guy, I have all these other additional hair pieces that snap on that I will be casting separately, because you can't, if you did this all together, you'd have all these undercuts and it would wreck the mold real fast. So I had to sculpt them separately as pop-offable pieces. Anyway, yeah, so we did a night up in the mountains where it was very hot and we just had to leave the doors wide open. And this is cougar country, this is mountain lion, which I think is the same thing. This is bears, who knows what else roams around in the dark of night waiting for people's car doors to be open wide, inviting them in. So yeah, we ended up not doing that very often. Not to mention all the insects, of course, who want to fly into your mouth. But then, because we were on a very limited budget, which obviously the car troubles absolutely destroyed that little fantasy, we were staying at the cheapest motels we could find. And we did not find bed bugs. I checked every time. I checked every corner of the bed for bed bugs. But we were visited by many, many spiders. I got a spider bite, which fortunately ended up not being a big deal. Found several more spiders. And then in this one room we stayed, like a night or two after the spider bite room, this giant beetle flies in and lands on my bed right next to me. I'm reading, right? Getting ready for bed. Beetle lands there. I'm like, oh, that's cute. It's a beetle. That's fine. And then I look to my right, and this big spider just like scurries under my blankets. I was like, ah! You know, you're trying to wind down after a super stressful day of running around in the desert pretending to shoot at aliens all day, and you just, you know, like it. The wind down time was more than I anticipated would be necessary, which was really annoying because I would think, oh, I'll just pass out because I'll be so tired from all this, this crazy stuff we're doing. But no, it turns out your brain doesn't really care about that and still needs you to, well, in my case, still needed me to read and do some, I do my daily work on my novel editing and stuff like that. And so I would still not get to bed till after midnight or more, and then we'd want to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning. So, man, we were getting run ragged. Anyway, when I saw that spider, I had to find it. So I ripped all the pillows, blankets, sheets, everything off the bed. Was just like flipping everything over, turning everything inside out. It was nowhere to be found. Eventually, I had to pick the bed up, move it, and then, like, in the back, like, at where the head of the bed meets the floor, that's where that little guy was hiding. And so he went to spider heaven. Usually, I don't like to unnecessarily kill insects. But in this case, it was like, sorry, dude, I need to sleep. Yeah, so he had to go to spider heaven. What is it with Foremans and spiders? Yeah, tell me about it. They love Heather. She's had 3 bites in the past couple of years, and every time it turns into this huge infection, and you could like see the like red spreading through her veins, like going towards lymph nodes or towards her heart or whatever. And it's terrifying. And up till this point, I had never been bothered by spiders. But on this trip, man, they just had it out for me. Yeah, I didn't want to burn the room down because, you know, it wasn't my hotel. Anyway, hopefully when all is said and done, Shane will have a cool portfolio piece and the experience of putting it together, and you know, maybe it'll even be like a family heirloom that his kids can look at and see him when he was 18, running around with Grandpa in the desert, and that'll be nice. It'll all be worth it. If Justin ended up following in my footsteps, I would literally be a grandfather right now, if you can believe it. Grandpappy Josh. I mean, I could be a grandfather right now for all I know. I honestly don't know what he's up to. He hasn't got back to me in a year or so. So he could be showing up on my doorstep tomorrow and being like, hey, do you want to meet your grandkid? I was 21 when I had him. No, I didn't have him. When I received him as a son, as a child into this world from the womb of his mother, my ex-wife. 21. That's a great age to have a kid, let me tell you. Let me tell you. And he is, I want to say he's 22 now. Yeah, he's 22. So he's actually overdue to make me a grandfather. Dottie, hey! Welcome! Ehrlich, this is a mix of many things. It started out as a 3D print. That's what this part is, and then I've been adding on to it all these other patches that you see, and well, I've actually probably covered 90% of what used to be 3D print with this kind of clay called Epoxy Sculpt, which is a 2-part clay. You mix it together and it sets up in a couple hours, and so I've been going through the incredibly laborious process of pretty much re-sculpting over the entire thing. I got this done because this is done at a scale. It can't have the detail. This is also a 3D print, and this hardly needed any touch-ups or resurfacing because it's so the resolution on the printer that does these things is super high, but unfortunately it can only print stuff about, you know, that big, you know. So to get a half-size bust, I had to have a different printer do it, and that printer was not as high resolution, which meant, yeah, going back and sculpting over everything again. Not the coolest method. Do not recommend. I recently bought myself a nice high-res printer. Hopefully I can get it to work. And so for the next bust that I do, for the next character in the series, I am probably going to be printing them in multiple pieces and then stitching those together. And I think that will be less work than what I'm doing here. We'll find out. Stay tuned. We will find out. The original sculpt was done digitally in ZBrush, in case you're curious. And so a lot of my streams, I'm in the garage doing touch-up work on 3D prints, and other streams I'm sculpting in ZBrush. Alright, I think I'm going to leave it at that and give it a good primer coat before I decide what more to do with it. Let's see. I really want to work a little more on my Zelda map. So part of the stuff I need to do on the Zelda map is carve away bits, and part of it is building up bits. That reminds me, did I ever get my art stuff put on here? Let's check. We have a Josh Stuff folder. Josh Stuff, art. Yay, we did. Let's see, my art. Projects. Zelda stuff. I want to show you guys the original diorama that was in the instruction manual for the first Legend of Zelda game, which is what this map is based on. Here we go. Why are you not opening up? Open! Then Mortis says, I'm off to punish myself in this heat to go walk. Have fun, everyone. Hey, you too. Letha says, Pumpkin is a sad kitty. I'm watching your live stream, ignoring his pleas to be taken outside. Oh man, everyone needs to go outside all of a sudden. There we go. Okay. And somewhere I have a screen. There it is. Right, so here's kind of the basic idea that I'm going for. I want the, you know, I'm going to be a little more detailed than this, but the idea of like having real little foliage down for the bushes and like watery looking water, rocky looking rocks, that's the basic idea I'm going for. But it's going to be a lot more accurate to the actual game map because it's based off of this piece that Retro 3D Designs did. I think he builds these in Minecraft and 3D prints them. And let's see, since I didn't say since the beginning of the stream, I'll say it again for everyone who's new. This is a piece that I bought from him, that he painted and did himself, and then I made a mold out of it using this press mold stuff. stuffed it with this epoxy clay and pulled it out so that I can do my custom version. But since he already did the hard work of laying out the actual proper dimensions and proportions and stuff, I can work off of that. I believe I used mostly freeform air. Or maybe I used like half freeform air. No, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I used only about a quarter freeform air, and the rest was epoxy clay or epoxy sculpt. The reason I had air mixed in with it was because it's very easy to carve the freeform air. And so even just having this amount in there, I'm gonna remember that it was about a quarter. It just makes the carving process of getting all the little bits that I don't want much easier. It's tricky to get rid of these spots here. I have a set of like wood carving tools, because what it needs is a flat edge chisel, but I rarely use those types of tools, so whenever I need them, they're hidden away obnoxiously. I think I need to just put it on my to-do list to dig those bits out before I'll just save all the stuff that a flat chisel would do better and just focus on stuff that an X-Acto knife will work well for right now. Which I think is mostly these kind of taller rock formations. Hey, I've got 99 followers. 99 followers, a beer on the wall, 99 followers, a beer. Thanks again, everyone who has followed for following. It's very nice of you. Some of these little, like, temple things, I wish I had gotten the detail on them better. Although one thing I could do is just cut them off and resculpt them a little more game accurate. On the other hand, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because this is just kind of a fun little side thingy I'm doing. Yeah, maybe I should just focus on getting the ground done. Do I want to do ground or do I want to do rocks first? Seems like ground is better because often the rock will get in the way of doing the ground. But to do the ground, I need a chisel to fix some of these parts, and I don't want to dig around for a chisel during a live stream. So now I'm just kind of wondering how many of these chisel worthy areas are there, and can I just brute force it with this X-Acto knife right here, right now? There's a weak spot. A Dremel type of tool could also do the trick. But Dremel's no fun to listen to on a stream. Oh, hey Aletha, I still have your sculpture of the like bull monster thingy that you made all those years ago, right? I mean, I know I have that sculpture. Were we supposed to get that to you? I guess if so, and if you're coming up later this month, you can just grab it then. But let's not forget again, because it's been like years. He's just hanging out next to my char, having a good time. Talking about life with big horns. Druid bear. Yep. Yep. Is that a World of Warcraft thing? Okay. What was I using? Probably white. White epoxy sculpt with brown. And why do I not see the brown? Dottie B says, Josh, did you happen to catch any of Epicenter's tour footage on Facebook? I did not, but I would love to see that. You know, I've been out for the past several weeks, so I'm not hip to the jive of all the cool new happenings that everyone's doing these days. Here's the brown. And there should be a part B of this stuff hanging around somewhere. But where? I was in such a panic before I left for the trip trying to get all that stuff done that, oh, this will work. A lot of things got just kind of shoved in corners. Oh, Nightbot. That's another thing I need to figure out. Wow. Yeah, last night I was thinking, what are the things I need to do for a stream again? What are the things that I kept meaning to do and hadn't got around to? That's one of them. Figure out, Nightbot, why it don't work for me. Letha says, someday maybe I'll make a char. That would be fun. Yeah, I would. It's a Taran Druid in bear form. Okay. I didn't know they went into bear form. You know, you learn something new and useless every day. That is the human condition. Mr. O says, if it's a Taran Druid, that char must be a vegetarian. Are you saying the char would eat him otherwise? It's not Meat-toberfest yet. So maybe if it stays in bear form, the char won't eat it, because its original form is a bipedal cow. Yeah, if anything, the char would try to date it. I don't know. Char have nuanced relationships with cows. And one of the maps, I believe Daesa Plateau. I don't even remember how we're supposed to pronounce that. That was my idea, to give them a cow launcher to shoot the cows as far as possible. And I think they did get it so if you go in the cow launcher, you get shot up to one of the POIs on top of the tower, right? I remember that was one of those things where it was really tricky, and they were like, I don't know if we can do this, Josh. That's pretty crazy. And then it was probably Lisa Davis as usual. It was like, yes, I can do this. Yeah, isn't it like a scientist or something who's trying to figure out how far they could launch cattle for science? Stuff and some other stuff to add to the stuff to make the stuff do stuff. That stuff, for instance. Somewhere got a pointy jabby brush. Let's try this. Not that brush. The cook at the tower is complaining it's raining cows. That's right, yep. You can gamble on where the cows land. Oh, I don't remember that. I wonder if that was added more recently. Another thing I hid in that map was there's a little girl char who has a strawberry patch. It was really fun. Like, that came in really late in the project, but I just had this idea of, like, just thematically, I thought it'd be cool to have, because the char have these big dumps of just like massive metal gears and, you know, just garbage, metal garbage. And I thought it'd be really cool to have a char who is kind of reclaiming that for beauty. And so I made this little, I came up with this idea of this little girl char who kind of hides out in a corner of the map that's difficult to get to and find. And she just, it's like her little sanctuary there. It was really fun kind of finding artistic ways to compose the metal. I made like little little candle holder things and wind chimes and stuff like that. And I even got to write her dialogue, and she got voiced by one of the actors that did quite a lot of our children, who she's I want to say she's the middle child on the show Modern Family. She's got glasses. She's like the nerd daughter. Fun factoid for you. She's also a female char. Yeah, if you want to find the strawberry patch, it's in the very, let's see, southwest? Yes. The very southwest corner of the map. There's like a little village and a big pile of mossy gears and some pipes coming out of a wall, and you kind of have to do a little mini jumping puzzle to get up to the pipes. I think if they did it the way I wrote it, there's some kids running around in the village, and they're talking about how there's a ghost, like the place is haunted, because they keep hearing singing or something. And it turns out they're just hearing the little girls humming being reverberated through the pipes, and so they think the place is haunted. And that's kind of your clue to go dig around in that general area. Yeah, if you ever need strawberries, that's the place to go. Looks like I also need a chisel type device to get... Oh, actually, this wood might work. Damon says the strawberry area was part of last Halloween, I think. Was the last patch I played. Oh, really? WB Verse says, yeah, I know the place. I sometimes go there for the Ascalon forage daily. Cool. Glad it's still getting some traffic. I think I'm gonna not worry very much about having the ground be perfectly flat as it is ostensibly portrayed in the game, although, you know, that's totally debatable whether the ground's actually supposed to be flat in The Legend of Zelda. I mean, I think small berms and bumps and stuff are totally within the range of interpretation that I'm comfortable with making. Especially given the fact that it will save me a lot of time on this little project. And this little project is supposed to be a little project. Happy little sand piles. Exactly. Yeah, you know, building maps is just something I love doing, so it's like if I wasn't doing it professionally, I'd be doing it on my own time anyway. That is an incredibly privileged and lucky position to be in, just to be able to get paid for doing what you would be doing anyway. Dottie, you should tell Ryan to tag me in some of that Facebook footage, so I can find it. Love to see it. I did see some of his videos where he was demonstrating how he plays some of the riffs of the songs, and those are always fun. This is giving me a much better, finer texture than I was getting in my last experiment. Come on, find it. There we go. Okay, you gonna focus? No, you're not. You're not gonna focus at all. There. Hey, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, so you can see the difference between this area that I did earlier and this little path down here. I feel like this is a lot more kind of to scale what I'm trying to accomplish. Sometimes you just gotta find the right brush with the right stiffness of bristles and bristle count, etc., etc. Dibby says his good friend Nick just got an amazing gig as Dee Snider's new guitarist. I have heard the name Dee Snider, but I do not recall off the top of my head who that is. Was he a was he the vocalist of like a 80s or 90s metal band. Singer-songwriter, Twisted Sister. Okay. Yes. Cool. Now, was Nick part of Epicenter? And is Epicenter in trouble now that they don't have him as a guitarist? Or is he just a friend who is also a guitarist? I'd hate to have Epicenter lose any talent, because they are amazing. Right now I'm wondering if it's worth preserving all the little nubbins in here that I'm having to work around, or if it would be better just to kind of plaster over everything, and just, because I'm going to be adding teeny tiny little pebbles and bushes and stuff, that those are supposed to represent anyway. The only advantage to keeping them around is that they just are a handy guide, so I don't have to keep referring to the map all the time when I'm doing it. But again, that's going back to kind of the philosophical question of how accurately do I care about this portraying the actual map. I think what I'm caring about is just evoking that kind of fun diorama of it. I'm not trying to make a game accurate recreation. And if that's the case, that saves me a lot of time, because I can just blob over it all and then go back and add the bits where I want them. In fact, saying that out loud, that it's going to save me time, was really all the direction that I needed. It's like, duh. Given the amount of time and headspace that I proportioned for this little side thing, it's a no-brainer. I need to do whatever is the shortest, easiest version of this project. And yeah, it's just to evoke, not to recreate. Dottie says, no, just good friends. They fill in for each other when needed. Nick was originally the guitarist for Sonic Pulse. I've not heard of Sonic Pulse. But that does not say much. I am a 43-year-old man, and I am not hip to many of the new and emerging artists that exist. Or many of the old and previously existing artists either. Because for most of my life as a musical connoisseur, I listened exclusively to either Weird Al or Christian bands. So a lot of Christian metal, which means I purposely didn't want to listen to bands that didn't claim to be Christians. Yeah, so I missed out on quite a lot of the popular culture in the genre that I love. So my knowing or not knowing a band speaks nothing to its infamy. I grew up in a particular version of Christianity that was very suspicious of everything created by people who were not Christian enough to to fulfill their quota for what a real Christian was, which is a whole nother story. This is kind of making me wonder, maybe if I want to just make a liquidy slurry to paste over the ground. That might not be a faster, cooler way to do this. Mr. S says, I was hooked on Weird Al since the first Transformers movie. Yeah, Dare to Be Stupid. To this day, one of my favorite movies is UHF. It's so ridiculous, but I love it. Like there's a comedy that is one of my favorite movies ever that I will defend artistically and say this is legitimately a fantastic movie and everyone should watch it, and I look side-eyed at people who say it's not good, and that is The Princess Bride. All right, I will defend that artistically. There is another comedy movie that is one of my favorites that I love, that I don't feel the same way at all. I will not defend it artistically. I will not judge anyone for not liking it, and that is UHF. I totally understand not liking that one. I really wish that more people would adopt that philosophy of selective defense of their favorite things, rather than just assuming if I love it, it must actually literally be good, and people who don't love it, there's something wrong with them. That's not a good way to interpret reality, in my opinion. Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? Yep, amazing. Yes, as a librarian, I would hope you say that constantly. I would also hope that you become a massive bodybuilder and weigh 300 pounds. So when you deliver the line, it can be really, really terrifying, as it should be. You need to lift people up by their collar. I'm confused about this little part of the map. Let's see. What am I trying to build? And why is it taking my computer 20 seconds to open an image file? Must be really struggling. So I'm doing this little part here. Okay, so that's supposed to be the little tree opening. Alright, I got it. I think I definitely want to remove all these entrances that don't look much like the hidden game thing. Like, this is supposed to look like a tree stump with a scary face on it. Like this says, unless they don't like coffee, then there's something wrong with them. Yeah, there is something wrong with me, I agree. AJ says, I got critique on a short story and didn't die. Oh, good job. It's always great to not die from critique. I applaud you. Dottie B, thanks for hanging out. Have a good visit with your mom. Yeah, I think I actually like it better with these little convolutions in the terrain. Makes it cuter. In fact, it just now occurred to me that if I have the terrain closest to the actual terrain facing the viewer, because you always look at the map in this direction, at the kind of close, and then it can slope upwards as it goes towards the further wall. You get a nice kind of just a better presentation. You can see the terrain better, and yeah, I don't even know what that effect would be. It's what it would be called, but I like it. Letha says, poor camera doesn't know what to do about the focus. Oh wait, maybe that's just my eyes. Yeah, it's probably the crappy camera. Hopefully that'll be fixed by next stream. I hope my new not broken version of this should be getting here on Monday. That's tomorrow, right? Yeah, Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully I'll have the good camera operating again by Wednesday for Wednesday's stream. This is like a sandy beach type area, kind of piling up the sand against the wall here and then bringing it down to the shore. Letha says, gonna go catch dragonflies with Pumpkin. That's it. I'll catch them while he looks around in confusion. Be back in a few. Alright, have fun. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do about the water areas. I think I might like drill straight down into them so they've got plenty of depth, and then do resin similar to how the original was done. The original has a very thin resin coat over just painted blue, and I'm thinking if I dig down deeper, I can have a more natural kind of depth, you know, where it gets darker over a longer, further distance. This lake does not look quite to scale. That's okay. I didn't realize that the vast majority of the terrain in the game is the same kind of tan yellow. Like the desert has a slightly different dot color, and then there's some grayish. But everything else, in forest, beach, mountain, wherever, it's all that same kind of yellow. Not that I have to slavishly recreate that, it's just an interesting thing I hadn't noticed. It's, you know, when you play a game as a kid, you're infusing it with so much of your own imaginative, interpretive faculties, and those can stay with you, like where you need to, or even after all these years, like a little thing I hadn't noticed like that can just surprise you. It's amazing. It's just amazing. You know, that definitely happens with movies where, like, to this day, it's really hard for me to recognize how, like, bad and or awkward the dialogue in the original Star Wars movie is. Like, if I put my brain into purely analytical mode, I can do it. I can be like, oh yeah, that is really awkward and weird. But because it was just like, you know, from childhood, constant exposure, that, you know, that was normal in a sense. That's the way a movie is supposed to be. That's the way the perfect movie operates. And even though I've seen lots of movies that don't operate that way and have non-awkward dialogue and delivery, for some reason it doesn't necessarily like get retro applied to something that I already know and love and am familiar with. It doesn't automatically happen. It requires an effort on my part to apply it. You've returned? How many dragonflies did you catch? I never want to catch dragonflies because they kill mosquitoes. I'm a huge fan of everything that kills mosquitoes. Except for spiders that bite my wife. I'm not a fan of those, no matter how many mosquitoes they kill. Saw you coming, huh? It's catch and release? Okay, that's good. Yeah, I like anything that hovers is generally cute. Dragonflies and hummingbirds. I'm trying to think of something that hovers that isn't cute. I mean, I guess a lot of helicopters aren't necessarily cute. But if you put googly eyes on them, like a dragonfly has, then they definitely would be cute. This little corridor here, I believe, is where you're walking along the riverside, minding your own business, and all these boulders just keep streaming down infinitely from this cliff face. So I'm thinking it would make sense to kind of do an overhang where the boulders would be falling off from. But after I dig out that river part. I also think it couldn't hurt to raise this path up a bit. Make it more visible. One piece of really good news is from the trip, even though it ended up costing way more than I hoped it would, and pretty much demolishing our car, was the camera did not get destroyed or even damaged, as far as I know. Even though we had it in all sorts of perilous locations doing pretty adventurous things. Survived the trip unscathed. Always good to count your blessings. Remember how much worse it could have been. cool looking path back there. Pumpkin caught a stick and brought it inside, and then Breve stole it. Oh my gosh, drama. I hope they're still friends after that. Mistro says, I didn't really know the first thing about video editing. I don't really. I'd like to get into YouTube, Switch someday though. Twitch. Yes. Well, you don't need to know about editing to get into YouTube and Twitch. At least if you're doing live streams, because you can't edit. It's all live. But, you know, my son who's been learning it has learned some from me, but mostly just from following tutorials online. It's such an amazing resource that exists now, man. What I wouldn't have given back in the 90s when I was learning all my technical stuff I had to learn, to have an internet that was just full of professionals who were more than happy to make free tutorials. What a world that would have been, and what a delightful world it is now. So you kind of picked a better time to want to learn something like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Alright, well, I ran out of clay and I'm getting pretty hungry, so I think now is a pretty good time to call it for the day. It was great to be back with you all after such a long break, and great to meet all you new folks who popped by. Thanks for checking it out. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing more garage stuff next time or back in ZBrush, but either way, hopefully we can have delightful, stimulating conversations and get to know each other better and learn more about Aletha's cats and their proclivities for sharing or not. Yeah. So thanks a lot, guys. We will see you Wednesday at, what time? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Pacific is always when I'm on Wednesdays. So, see y'all then. Mr. O says, fixed my car from YouTube so many times. Very good. Yes, your cats are very important, Aletha. And that's it. All right. See you guys next time. Bye.